In this episode, I lift up some questions about the strengths and maybe some of the weaknesses in modern communication technologies like texting. Stay tuned. Hello, friends. Pastor Tim Westermeyer here, Senior Pastor of St. Philip the Deacon in the western suburbs of Minneapolis. Good to be with you, as always. Today, I kind of have on my mind something I want to just think through a little bit with your help, if you're willing. And it's prompted by a couple of things that have happened recently to me. One is related to my son. One is related to an old friend. So I'll start with my son. Well, one of my sons. I'm thinking of our youngest son, Andrew. I've mentioned in another episode or two that he's off at West Point. We're actually going to go see him for the first time since we dropped him off this upcoming weekend, which will be great. We're excited about that. Since we dropped him off, though, with the exception of 2 brief phone calls, which he was allowed to make, all of our correspondence with him has been through sort of old school letters and cards. Both written by us to him and receiving them from him. And sticking with him, and then I'll get to my older friend in a moment, as I have been writing those letters to him over the last 6 weeks, and also as I've been receiving the letters from him, I have been profoundly struck by a difference in quality of the quality of the communication. I don't mean better or worse. I mean sort of the things I've focused on, the things I've been lifting up, the questions I've been asking him, the things I've been sharing with him, as opposed to when he was living with us as a high school senior, the way we communicated more typically, which tended to be, as so often is the case today, through text messages, or if we had the privilege of seeing him on an evening during his senior year of high school, maybe a few words spoken in the hall or something at home. But the quality between, again, not better or worse, understand I'm using the word quality in terms of sort of the type of content or the gravity maybe of content, the quality of a text message versus the quality of a letter that sort of necessarily takes more time to write, that requires more thought. Again, it struck me in a really profound way that how I'm communicating with my son here is very different because of the type of communication that's happening, namely a letter or card versus a text message. So this came up to the second gentleman I was thinking of in a conversation with a friend of ours who in turn reflected on the way that he had courted his wife now of many years, and because of circumstances related to their lives when they were younger, they were actually far apart for a period of time when they were courting. And as a result, all of their communication was also done by letters. And his comment was, and I found this interesting, there were things as a young man, maybe particularly, that he was able or willing to share in a letter that he might not have been able or willing to share had he been talking to his now wife of many years face to face. So I'm not sure I have an actual hard and fast point here, but again, I'm just sort of sitting with this and maybe extending the question to you of how have you found technology to impact the way that you communicate with your friends? And to be very clear here, I am not saying that technology is negative. We use technology for this podcast. I'm very happy that I can communicate quickly with my family, with my other sons. Right now, my youngest son doesn't have his phone, or my wife, easily and quickly through text messages, right? There are all kinds of upsides to that, but precisely because it's so convenient and easy and quick to use, I think it impacts the way we communicate with one another. And again, being forced to communicate with Andrew only by letters has just prompted this recognition on my part that, I wonder how this technology stuff informs or impacts the relationships we have, for good or for bad, right? What do cards allow us or letters allow us to say or do that's different than text messages do? So I genuinely would be curious about your thoughts about this. What have you found to be the upsides of technology as it relates to relationships and staying in touch? And also, what, if anything, have you found to be its weaknesses in terms of depth of conversation or depth of communication that's happening? As always, you are more than welcome to include those comments below, whether you're watching this on YouTube or on the St. Philip the Deacon Facebook page. Or, if you'd prefer this week, feel free to send me a letter in the mail. As always, thanks for being with me. Be well, stay in touch, and God bless.